Hello, everyone.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year. Welcome to 2022. Yes. I actually was thinking about, zero means nothing, right? Of course, it doesn't really mean nothing. We like lots of zeros to the left of the decimal point with something in front of it. But no, I was thinking about how 2022 has very prominently within it 222, which is representative of faith. And that just feels like a really powerful thing to focus on as we launch into a new year. But first of all, welcome to all of you who are joining from the past, from the present, anyone who happens to find us. We're really delighted to be sharing space with you today. We're going to be focusing on clearing out the spiritual clutter so that we can begin anew. And of course, we're always beginning anew, but we obviously put extra emphasis on this time of year. So to get us started, Peter made a comment when we were calling in the day, and this is our morning prayer practice. And I wanted him to share a little bit about this because I think it's really interesting because we always talk about and bring in and notice the Mayan energies as we are doing our morning prayer.
Absolutely. In the Mayan energies that we talk about, it's what they call the human calendar. The name of it is the Cholkik. And the calendar is really focused on the human cycle. It's a 260-day calendar, and that is represented in it takes about 260 days to create a baby from impregnation to birth. Also happens to be their sort of main crop is maize, and that particular species of corn takes about 260 days from planting to harvest. And so anyway, January 1st is 13 Tihash. The way the calendar works is there's powers, which are the numbers, 1 through 13, and there's 20 ahas, which are, you could consider them gods or aspects of God. So the numbers rotate, the days rotate. Anyway, January 1st this year is 13 Tihash. 13 is the miracle, the magic. Tihash is the knife, the healing. You think about surgery. It cuts, it's painful, but, there's purpose behind it. It's cutting out, something bad, or it's getting in to remove something that should not be there. So the fact that it's coming on New Year's Day, brand new year, in the middle of a pandemic, I just felt significant that, there's this miracle of healing. We were talking actually this morning about the pandemic and how, maybe as unfortunate it is, maybe there's a purpose behind it in terms of bringing the globe together. Because, if you go back in time, a lot of countries and nations would try to isolate themselves in situations like this. And in this day and age, it's just not possible to isolate. We're now really, and it's happened in regions. You go back, I'm not a historian, but if you go back, there were Middle Ages, there was a lot of interaction between countries in Europe. If you go back further, in the Far East, there were interactions between like China and Mongolia and all those. Anyway, so it's happened in regions, but now I think we've reached a new level in the last probably 50 to 100 years where it really is a global world, and we can't ignore that. So perhaps the pandemic is bringing some cooperation that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
At least we can pray that's
yeah. And as you were saying that, I was thinking about how, so many of the things that we buy, that we purchase, are made in China. So when we make a decision to purchase something, we're affecting so many people between here and its origin, but, especially including the people who actually made it, that concepted it, that brought it into being. So it is such an interconnected world, and I think we can't ever lose sight of that. Which is why it's so important to understand that as we heal ourselves, we heal the world, really.
Absolutely. And going back to her opening comment about clearing out, cleaning out,
Get rid of the shit.
there's a closet right around this corner here that has been festering for 20 years or maybe longer. And she dove into it yesterday, and it's a lot of stuff went out of the house, and the stuff that was staying is reorganized in a way that
Reorganizing. I need to get a shelf. But
is easier to access.
Yeah. Before we go there, I do just want to mention that I will drop the link to the Cholkic calendar so that you can look up your birthday or anniversary dates or any particular dates. You can follow along because it's really interesting to notice the energy. For example, we got married on 12 Tihash. We didn't know about the Mayan calendar back then, the Dark Ages, but it was, 12 is community. And Tihash, of course, as Peter already mentioned, is healing. So it was just very much about, oh, yes, our purpose as a couple is about healing community, and which is what we're praying, we're doing through things like this. So back to that closet. I know that I'm not alone because I've my friend Judy and I have been texting each other pictures of areas that we've been cleaning out, not even knowing that at the same time we were doing not spring cleaning, we're talking about like midwinter kind of cleaning out. And there's just been this drive inside of me to get rid of the stuff, to simplify. And I think what I'm noticing and hearing is that it's really happening on a planetary level. And the reason why it's important for any of you who know about feng shui, you're already up on this, but for those of you who aren't, or if you just need a reminder, is that when we allow stuff to collect that we don't need, that is just no longer of service, that is unhealthy or unclean. I mean, there were some like little, I won't get too gross, but there was some little spider egg stuff back there. It was kind of gross. And there was a kite. I really wanted to keep this kite, but then I noticed that we used to have a challenge with some food pantry moths. You guys are never going to want to come to our house. But I promise you it's actually a very beautiful space. But anyway, so I noticed that there were some little clusters in that kite. So Peter's like, nope, got to get rid of it because we haven't had a food moth problem for a long time and we don't want it back. So anyway, every time we walk by or lay eyes on, I can't tell you how many times I would look at that closet and without even noticing it consciously because I'd walk by it so many times, but there was a little part of me that would go, ugh, and it would bring my whole spirit, my energy down. And so when we allow these things to collect and to fester, it creates disorganized energy. Or it allows disorganized energy, and that affects us spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and I would go so far as to say maybe even physically, because of course it's all interconnected. So my intention has been, and our house is in a way different place than it was back when I was working full-time, Peter was working full-time, we had 2 kids, it was just kind of like we were just treading water, so that's a lot of where it started, and then cleaning out my parents' houses because they were both Depression era babies. They had a lot of stuff, so we did a good job weeding out stuff as we moved them out. But some of it came here, and it's been a process over the last few years to, is it really of service for me to keep this photo album or not? And Judy always, she's queen of decluttering. She has 3 different categories. There's you want to get rid of it, you want to hang on to it, and then there's a middle category of I don't know yet, and that's okay. But like yesterday, this old family album, I just said to Peter, this is hard for me to get rid of, but I know I don't want it anymore. And so I was like, can you just do me a solid? Can you just take it out to the garage for me? Because I know it's time for it to go. And so released it with love and took out of it what I wanted and left this guy, my hero, to get rid of it. And it lightens the spirit,
Yeah, and I was going to say, when you were commenting about going by that closet and just that yuck, just think about it on a vibration level. You're playing high C, and now you've dropped down to a middle C. Just
Yeah.
just from doing that.
Just from looking at it.
Just from looking at it. So it's things like that can lower your vibration.
Yeah, very much so. So, second point. We have 3 points. We didn't tell you that at the outset. 3 points.
There's going to be a quiz. Second point, sort of put on my daughter's hat of the artist, and when thinking about this. And if you think about an artist and they have like a work table or a painter, they've got their canvas, and if it's not clean, if it's obstructed, it's got tools on it, or it's got you've got different magazines on the table or whatever. If it's cluttered, it's hard to work, and you have to work around those things. You have to move things, and then so all of those little motions are disrupting the creative process. And so from a spiritual palette or a spiritual work table, we're going to do much better if we declutter it, if we create the space, the palette or the table, and we, to some degree, organize the tools, and even maybe more specific, organize the tools that we're going to use at this particular time. So if you're talking spiritual, maybe it's the angel cards, or meditation music, or whatever you have, but getting it organized, and potentially, if you're like this lady and have, I don't know, 50 different decks of angel cards, probably bigger than that. You're going to want the cards that you're going to engage with, because again, if you look over at a big pile of angel cards, you might take that step down. It's like, I want that deck that's like way on the bottom, and now I've got to unstack these to get to what I'm getting at.
That takes energy too.
So
clearing away the clutter.
It takes energy, and it's also, I was going to go sometime in terms of human design. Manifesting is a very quick thing, and so in terms of manifestation, when we have to slow down unnecessarily, because there's times that we do need to slow down, but if we have to slow down unnecessarily, then it can kill that creative spark, or it can reduce the impact of that creative spark.
It interrupts the flow. Yeah.
So ultimately, the message is just this is a great time to organize your space, whether that's physically or and as well as declutter, get rid of the stuff you don't need. And then to the next point.
Yeah, I think so much of this is about, because we're talking about physical and emotional and mental, but ultimately, sorry, we had a little freeze glitch there. I didn't know if it was going to have to start over, but I think that's just a little extra emphasis on this third point, because really what it comes back to is keeping your vibration high, which is what Peter brought up a little while ago. And so we walk by that closet, and not only do we necessarily feel that, but we're also probably judging ourselves. So there's this sort of emotional, spiritual clutter that's happening when we do that. And it's not just about, the physical clutter, but we can judge when we're observing or part of a conversation with another person, when we're reading the news, when we're doing whatever, interacting with the world, is that when we go into that space of judgment, whether it's about ourselves or about other people, that's clutter. And it's clutter because it's an obstacle keeping us from what Source really wants us to be hearing. Whenever we're falling into that space of judgment, we have fallen away from love. And that's a cluttering, distracting, obstructive kind of force. And so, the point number 3 here, which is I think what we really want to drive home, is that it's so much about being present and able to hear what Source wants you to hear in this moment.
And I would just say that I do think at times it's important for us to look at judgment in a, sort of maybe a more analytical way. It's like, why am I judging that person or that group? Because there may be a nugget in there for me. Why is that a button? For healing.
Yeah.
But I think what Reverend Elvia is getting at is in terms of just like feeling that judgment, digging into that judgment, letting, our minds can do the spin. And it's like, we have one thought and then that leads to another thought and then that leads to another thought. So letting that dig in is filling up that closet again. Yeah. And stepping aside from that is important because it lets the space be there for other things.
Yeah, right. And there's so much polarization happening in the world right now, and as Peter said a little while ago, there's we're so interconnected that when we're allowing that polarization to be a force in our lives, we're perpetuating it. And so our task is difficult, believe me, we both know, as difficult as it can be, is to see what unites us, to rise above any inclination to separate, and to just be there, to be present in our hearts in compassion, seated in that space as we look at each other. And that is work. There's no two ways around it, but that's what we're all being called, I think, to do right now.
Absolutely.
So are we ready for the card for today?
I think we're ready for the saints and mystics.
Reading cards, yes. I probably do need to read
from
out.
Andres Garcia.
Angracia. Andres Angracia. I love his accents. They're good ones. Anyway, yeah, I think at some point we're going to have to, Judy and I have to do a little bit on how we weed out and declutter, because just a quick little thing is that as I'm looking at the cards, I'm like, yeah, I probably do need to weed out, and I immediately hear 5. So it's so much fun, actually, to do these things. It feels like a chore, right, to weed out, but it's so much fun to be like, okay, so how many decks do I need to get rid of? Immediately I hear 5, and then you can go into this, where are they located? Anyways.
Where are they going?
Where are they going? Right, because maybe they need to be gifted to somebody, or maybe they just need to be given to Salvation Army so that they can get in the hands of somebody else who needs them more.
Or maybe you need to use them as a giveaway deck, and you give a card to this person, and you give them another card.
It's one of my favorite things to do. I love doing that. Yeah. So, okay, this new deck, this is my newest deck, Saints and Mystics. And St. Barbara is the card that came forward. And I don't know of her. So I am using the book here. Those of you who have studied with me know that, we have to always trust our own intuition. So I'll show you that one more time, and just pay attention to anything that really strikes you in this image. What are you feeling? What are you seeing? What are you hearing, perhaps even? What do you just know as a message for you as you look at this card? So St. Barbara, I'm just going to read a short little clip of this. She is an Orthodox saint and was the daughter of Dioscorus, king of Nicomedia during the 4th century. And she is known for being just very empowered. She went against the grain and was really found resonance with the rising Christian spirituality and understanding. Given her privilege, she gave away to the poor as often as she could. So what I was really drawn to, this is 2 pages long, I'm not going to read it all, but the piece that really stood out in terms of the oracle meaning here is the emotional piece. Emotionally, she recharges your emotional battery to take the reins of your soul's path here and now. You are being reminded of your individual spirit and your right to lead your life by your own heart's desire. And I think that that's so much about, I'm going to be leading an EFT event later this month. If you're in the Angels Teach email list, you'll find out about it. But it's so much about again, each of us needing to own our own healing so that we then bring that to the world, because the world and humanity can't heal unless we all do our own work.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, just as Reverend Elvia was showing you the card, basically the thing that came to mind, she's got like the sun and maybe some lightning bolts in there, and it is power. She's bringing power, energy, was what came to mind before she even started talking about what was in the book. So definitely trust what the messages that you get when you look at a card or a picture or whatever it is.
Be the queen, see her crown there.
Yep.
And also I'm noticing, just as a last little wink here, I'm noticing this feather here. It's just, I'm hearing feather duster. It's like
Clean it up.
Clean it up. All right. So what's the tenet that came forward for us this month?
The tenet from today is, or this month, is I surrender to my soul's purpose through sacred prayer.
Beautiful. Tenet number 2. All right. So we're going to close with the tenets. Before I go there, I just want to remind you all that Reverends Marianne and actually one of our original ministers, Dawn Pinky Anderson, is going to be joining her next Sunday live at 10 a.m. Eastern. So make sure you look at the Facebook group for the details on that, or the recording will be posted on the YouTube channel.
January 9th, right?
The second, yes, January 9th. Okay. I had to do the calendar translation thing. Yes.
I did that ahead of time, so I didn't do it.
Stinker. Yes. And again, I will, because I want to, it's nice to close with the tenets and just sort of let that energy stay with you. So last little detail again, I will post the link to the Mayan calendar in the comments description of this video so you guys can check it out. It's fun.
It is fun. And
it's very interesting.
It's useful to check out your birth date, because from the Mayan beliefs, it has a lot to do with what your purpose here is.
Very much so. All right. So we ready?
I'm ready.
I open my heart with deep gratitude and intend today to master my spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical energies. I am dedicated to my spiritual practice. I surrender to my soul's purpose through sacred prayer. I own my guidance. I live in partnership with my angels. I serve with a loving heart. I am compassionate in every moment. I trust it's all good. I allow immediate forgiveness. I honor my truth. I listen to the spiritual messages within my physical body. I express myself creatively. I am one with Mother Earth, and so it is. So with that, we wish you all a beautiful, blessed month, and we love you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Be well.